Hi everyone, Greg with GM Russell Photography here. I'm passionate about helping people learn what works for them in photography. So today I'll be reviewing Luminar AI. If you asked me a year ago, I would have told you that AI has no place in photography. We're artists, right? Shouldn't we be capturing authentic art in our photography? Well, spoiler alert, I was wrong. Composites have been around for a long time, and those aren't truly authentic, yet I consider many of them to be truly stunning pieces of art. And I've come to the conclusion that AI enhancements are tools that photographers can use to bring their creative vision to fruition. Moreover, I think AI is here to stay in the photography space. Adopting it into our workflow now could lead to some interesting creative developments in the next several years. Recently, I've been on a quest to remove myself from the Adobe subscription model. I've also been learning more about AI developments in other spaces, and I find it fascinating. So if you combine the two together, that is what brings me to Luminar AI. Usually my photography workflow involves initial post-processing in Capture One, followed by final post-processing in Photoshop. I've been using Luminar on its own, and I've been implementing it into the aforementioned workflow. That is, I've used it in combination with Capture One and or Photoshop for different landscape projects. On its own, Luminar AI is capable to post-process an image from start to finish. The program features the usual adjustments: temperature, tint, exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, and so on. In addition, Luminar has some AI-enhanced tools such as Accent AI, Sky Enhancer AI, Structure AI, Sky AI, Augmented AI, Sky AI, as well as some portrait AI features that I haven't used. I wish that these AI features had tooltips to explain their use, as I had to experiment with them through trial and error. For someone coming from a non-AI editing program, these features aren't the most intuitive out of the box. Now, there are some issues that I have with some of Luminar AI's editing tools. When I was editing the sample image for this review, the clone stamp tool darkened the image and removed its adjustments while I was searching for the source to clone from. This made locating dust spots hard, and I had to leave the tool and come back several times in order to see where these spots were. I would rather this tool just keep the image as is so I can quickly remove these spots without having to switch to a different tool to be able to see them again. It's also a slightly lengthier process to remove lens distortion, as Luminar AI didn't seem to have a profile for my lens to autocorrect, so I had to use the slider to correct this instead. It's not a big deal, but it just adds a little bit of extra time. Now, I said that Luminar AI is capable to post-process an image from start to finish, but I wouldn't recommend that for most users. I'm going to continue using Capture One and Photoshop as my initial and final post-processing programs, respectively. And if I removed Photoshop from the picture entirely, Capture One would be sufficient on its own. But that doesn't mean I don't have use cases for Luminar AI. I do like playing around with the AI enhancement features to see how they manipulate my images, and I do like the ease of use of the sky replacement feature. It's much quicker than doing the same thing in Photoshop would be, but the masking involved does have some occasional issues. I've come across areas under bridges where Luminar AI doesn't recognize that it should have replaced the sky, and I've had masking problems in foreground features such as a barn, the subject of the image, where part of the sky bled into the foreground element. You can play around with the mask refinement sliders, but I haven't found a combination that's completely solved the problem. Now, it's an easy fix in Photoshop, but, well, that requires Photoshop. That said, let's talk about a related use case. I think a lot of us can recall times when we've gone on photo trips only to find out that the sky didn't cooperate. I generally don't use photos with clear skies, so there are times where some of those photo trips might turn out to be busts. But that's where Luminar AI can come in to save the day. It has sky replacements, and its AI relights the scene for you after you replace the sky. What could take a considerable amount of time and effort in Photoshop is solved in Luminar AI with a couple clicks and slides. But in addition to the occasional masking problems, there is another problem here. The skies that come packaged with Luminar AI are low resolution and appear pixelated when I use them. I reached out to Skylum support, and they told me that these prepackaged skies are lightweight in order to keep speeds up and are meant to serve as examples of what the program can do rather than be high-quality replacements we can use in our own art. This means either you need your own library of sky replacements or you can take a trip to Skylum's marketplace. Now, I wouldn't be irritated about this if the program's prepackaged skies were usable, but I don't like that there are essentially microtransactions here that are required for any of us who don't have extensive sky replacement libraries. The program is affordable at its normal commercial price, but these microtransactions can add up quickly. In addition, I find it interesting that they say this is to keep speeds up because there are a lot of times in this program where I do experience slowdowns, especially with sky replacements, and I'm editing on a i9 10000 series with 32 gigs of RAM, so it's not a lightweight computer by any means, yet the program is still slow. So it makes me wonder from a coding angle if there are optimizations that could be made here that just haven't been accomplished. Ultimately, Luminar AI is an intriguing program that does have use cases for both amateur and professional photographers alike. However, I wouldn't recommend it as a standalone editing solution except for those who either A, don't want to shell out monthly subscription payments anymore, or B, are priced out of purchasing Capture One by its steeper entry fee. If you already have a comfortable workflow with your current editing programs, Luminar AI isn't bringing anything truly revolutionary to the table. But in some cases, such as sky replacements, it functions as a faster way to accomplish tasks that can be done in other programs. It's an affordable way to move away from subscription models, but the microtransactions can add up and invalidate this point. I'm not sure that it's fair to rate editing programs on a 1 to 10 scale or on a letter grade scale, but if I were to give this a letter grade, I think I would be ranging around the B- mark. Alternatively, if I were to recommend whether you should buy this program, wait for a sale, or not buy it at all, I would be much more comfortable saying, hey, just wait for a sale. I'm sure they'll have one at some point, and if you can pick it up a little bit cheaper, hey, that might add a couple sky replacements that you can pick up and end up with about what you would have got for the commercial price. So that's my review of Luminar AI. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you've had any of these issues. Let me know if you've overcome any of them. And let me know what your thoughts of AI and photography in general, because I'm really curious to hear it. All right, guys, until next week, thanks for tuning in.